Northern Governors Forum condemns killing of Deborah Samuel, calls for calm and religious tolerance.
APC continues screening of more aspirants ahead of the party's primaries.
Nigerian Navy confiscates 7 trucks laden with illegally refined petroleum products.
On Good Morning Nigeria today, we continue our focus on the open presidential primaries of the People's Democratic Party.
The decision by Nigeria's opposition party, the People's Democratic Party, to throw open the contest for its sole presidential ticket has triggered intense lobbying by aspirants ahead of the party's presidential primary scheduled for May 28th to 29th, 2002.
2022, Kirian.
2022, rather.
All right. Now, the PDP, by that decision, it's saying no zoning of its presidential ticket to any part of the country, and that will give an equal chance and freedom to any and every aspirant who has purchased the party's 40 million naira expression of interest and nomination forms to contest the primaries.
Well, zoning itself, which implies rotational presidency between the North and South, was initially conceived to assuage the nation's multi-ethnic diversity by promoting integration, inclusion, and to foster a sense of belonging by rotating key offices in the land among sections or geopolitical zones of the country. Some analysts, however, argue that this is permissible and pertinent in a fragile and fledgling democracy like that of Nigeria that is trying to find footing.
Now, there are those who also believe that having achieved some 23 years of unbroken democracy, the nation is about to evolve in its democratic experience by shelving some elementary political sentiments, as they call it, that once characterized the political evolution and history of the country. And this way, they seek to embrace tenets that recognize quality and popularity of aspirants, irrespective of what part of the country they hail from.
While open presidential contest is an internal arrangement or decision by the PDP, analysts believe it will have far-reaching implications on the nation's democratic experience, considering the PDP's status and spread by de-emphasizing sentiments to focus on issues when the 2023 presidential race begins in earnest.
Well, that is where there is a growing clamor in the polity at the moment for the real issues and problems of the nation, ranging from insecurity in parts of the country to economic challenges. For these issues to actually take the front burner rather than ethno-religious sentiments as a way of challenging the aspirants to match their ambitions with workable agendas or blueprints so that the electorate are well informed of the motives and capabilities of those who are throwing their hearts into the presidential contest.
So what are the pros and cons of having an open presidential contest in the PDP? What does it say about the democratic experience now and in the near future? Has it come to stay? That's a big question.
That's right, Kirian, and we might as well also seek to know what the intrigues are that compelled the People's Democratic Party to opt for the open presidential primary, and the chances that such a decision might produce the best from the plethora of aspirants gunning for the party's presidential ticket. It's on that note that we would like to welcome you to today's edition of Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. I'm Kingsley Osadolo.
And I am Kirian Umari, also welcoming you to the program. We are reaching you from our headquarters studios here in Abuja, the nation's capital. We will bring you our usual complimentary segments in the course of the package. So now, here is the morning news highlights with Nolene Ebel Ame. Good morning, Nolene.
Good morning, Kieran and Kingsley. Good morning, Nigeria. Here is the morning news. The screening of all Progressive Congress governorship, Senate and House of Representatives aspirants continues in Abuja, with some aspirants who have passed through the exercise hopeful of a hitch-free party primary.
I also had a few questions to ask me on this, and I believe I will take my time properly to answer the questions. And it was cordial, it was friendly.
It is very smooth, very simple, because it's a procedure that we are used to, and I've done it.
So they have to go through every document that you have in order to make sure that we don't lose elections through technicalities.
The Northern Governors Forum has condemned the murder of Deborah Samuel, a student of Shehu Shagari College of Education, Sokoto, who was killed on allegation of blasphemy. In a statement by his Director of Press and Public Affairs, Dr. Makud Macham, Chairman of the Forum and Governor of Plateau State, Simon Bakola Long, says the governors are concerned about the development, which is clearly an extrajudicial measure of addressing perceived infraction. According to Governor Lalong, any attempt to adopt self-help in addressing grievances, whether religious or otherwise, will only lead to further chaos that could threaten law and order as well as the general peace and security of the society. While commiserating with the family of the victim, Lalong says calm and patience are required to enable security agencies conduct a thorough investigation on the matter. While extending the support and commiseration of the forum to Governor Aminu Tambuwal of Sokoto State over the incident, the forum enjoins all to show love, tolerance and respect for one another irrespective of faith, ethnicity or other affiliations. The Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Farouk Yahaya, has again reiterated the Army's resolve to improve personnel's capacity and combat readiness, especially during this period of heightened insecurity. The Army Chief made the remark at the 2022 Regimental Sergeant Majors Convention in Lagos.
Training is key element in everything we do. Now more so in the military profession, particularly for the army. That's why I'll attach a lot of importance to it. One of the four cardinal principles of my command philosophy is training, because there is no alternative to training. We continue to train and improve on what we do.
Meanwhile, a series of activities marking the 58th anniversary of the Nigerian Air Force have kicked off around the country, with the grand finale expected to hold in Kano on 20th of May.
We intend to ensure that we redouble our effort to ensure that the country is safe, and also we are assuring the Nigerian populace that they can always count on us at any point in time.
The Nigerian Navy ship NNS Delta under the Central Naval Command has apprehended 7 trucks laden with illegally refined petroleum products and 6 suspects. Commander NNS Delta Commodore Abdul Hamid Baba Inna warned perpetrators of economic sabotage to stay clear, as the law will catch up with them.
An activity that the federal government frowns at. If you are leasing out your truck or giving it out on hire, ensure you check and know what those trucks are meant for. This kind of truck carrying these products gets involved in an area where there's so much traffic. I mean, the disaster there is something that one cannot comprehend.
2 persons have been arrested by operatives of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency (NDLEA) for attempting to export 1,000 tablets of 200 milligram tramadol capsules and 6.65 kilogram of ecstasy MDMA and cannabis sativa bound for Milan in Italy and Dubai, United Arab Emirates, through the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, Lagos. In a related development, no fewer than 203,879 tablets of various pharmaceutical opioids and illicit substances have been seized in raids conducted in Abia, Kaduna, Yobe, and Kogi states. Meanwhile, NDLEA says it has been coordinating and operations in Zamfara, Kebbi, and Bauchi states, arrested 5 members of a syndicate conducting fake recruitment into security agencies. The syndicates are alleged to specialize in issuing fake NDLEA employment letters and identity cards to unsuspecting members of the public for a fee of 400,000 naira per person. That's the news for now. Good morning. Nigeria continues with Kinsley and Kirian after this break. I am Nolin Ebel Ame. Good morning.
I find the strength I need every time that I look into your eyes. You show me love. I know they worry, 'cause I know, say you did by my side. You show me and if I fall away, right in the midst of all my hour, you know that I am for my while. Oh, you always there for me. No matter what I do, you love me unconditionally. You show up for me every day. No matter when I show you, you show me love. You show me love.
Knock, knock, knock. Have you had breakfast this morning? I'm talking about a Kellogg's breakfast. It's fortified with the essential vitamins and minerals so you can stay active and alert. Yummy. So tasty, so nutritious.
Ajaye go gym. You won't go shake your body. Instead they make it calm down. It the form say sabi. You want to grow 6 packs in a day. I beg you not to pass your power. You want to show yourself, oh.
Whatever your size, find it with the new Airtel data plans. Dial *141# now to get the plan that suits you. Airtel, the smartphone network.
When times are tough, we know that as a mother, one thing you should never compromise on is your family's oral health, because they deserve the best. Oral-B all-round protection. It's great value. It protects your mouth from harmful bacteria and also protects you against tooth holes and gum problems which can lead to tooth loss. It strengthens your family's teeth and gives them all-round protection. So remember, protect their future. Oral-B for healthier, stronger teeth in just 1 week.
Candidates who are interested in gaining admission into NTA Television College Jos for the 2021-2022 2-year National Innovation Diploma Program are to apply for admission through the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board (JAM). The courses available for application include Film and Television Production, Broadcast Journalism, and Television Engineering Technology. Such candidates must have a minimum of 5 O-level credits in relevant subjects including English language and mathematics. For more information, please contact NTA Television College, Jos, or the marketing department of any NTA station nationwide. Registrar, Announcer. As the 2023 elections draw near, remember, evil prospers when good men and women only wish for peace, but never take a step to make peaceful elections happen. Are you a father? Are you a mother? What are you saying to your children as elections approach? Have you warned them not to let themselves be used to cause violence? Have you explained to them what the consequences of electoral violence might be? Do your part to make peaceful elections happen. Talk to your children. protect them from unscrupulous politicians who want to put them in harm's way, while their own children are comfortable at home, within and outside the country. Let's join hands to make 2023 elections peaceful. This message is from the National Orientation Agency, NOAA.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Up next is business news with correspondent Alika Opanachi Aruwa.
Nigeria is one of the largest producers of cashew, but processes only about 5 to 10% of its production locally. The remaining 90%, experts says, is sold at low prices in the global market, with China, Vietnam, and India topping the sales charts. In a recent cashew roundtable organized by stakeholders, the need to bring together stakeholders across the entire cashew value chain, matching producers with potential off-takers, promoting investments in the cashew sector, identifying skill gaps in the cashew value chain, and introducing innovative training delivery and competence-based training approaches were canvassed.
If there are free funds that we can use to either support our production line, our raw material supply strategy, our financial engineering management system, I mean, these are things that must, come into play, and then our logistics, which speaks about infrastructure, having good roads and all of that.
Only 4 items will make Nigeria to have more than $50 billion every year in export. Sea cocoa, tomato, peanut, cashew nut. Another one is ginger, soybeans. These 5-6 items, we are banking sure $50 billion every year.
Cashew is Nigeria's third largest agricultural export, accounting for about 16% of total exports in the last 3 years.
Many thanks, Alika, for the business package. Up ahead is newspaper review.
Payo Tebi, our newspaper reviewer, is with us this morning. Payo, good morning and welcome.
Thank you, Kinsley. Good morning. Good morning, Kirian.
Yeah,
good morning, Nigeria.
See you.
Thank you.
All right, let's begin the review with the Nigerian pilot. The Nigerian pilot, Deborah, that's the kicker. Northern governors, Gumi, condemn killing. Riders to that, murder, extrajudicial measure of addressing perceived infraction, governors. Calls for calm, respect for one another, irrespective of faith, ethnicity, other affiliations. Prophet Muhammad didn't kill when insulted while alive, says Sheikh Gumi. Says those killing for same offense have no justification for their actions. ASU said to call off strike after reaching new understanding with federal government. That's the Nigerian pilots. Now let's go to the Nation newspaper, The Nation. Above the name flag of the Nation newspaper, what Kanu told me about Southeast killings, that's according to the governor of Anambra State, Professor Soludo, is on page 5. Nobody has contacted us, says slain Deborah's father. That story is also on page 5. SEC limits digital currency offers to 10 billion naira, that's on page 13. Oshomole, 350 others screened for APC Senate tickets, on page 5. Now the lead story on the Nation newspaper, Atiku, Wike, Saraki, others battle for 3,700 delegates. With the riders, Sokoto, Benue, Taraba, Kano, Kaduna, Bauchi among those with large number of votes. All right. Of course, the photo story there is that of a major market in Sokoto, as say Cam returns to the city. All right. Below that, we have a resignation directive. Amechi Silva telling others to go today. Presidential advisor joins Jigawa governor's race. All that on page 4. Now, Buhari Malami asked Supreme Court to void Electoral Act Section 84, subsection 12. That's also on page 4. At the bottom, NDLEA seizes 203,897 tramadol in Abia, Kaduna, Yobe, and Kogi rates. That's on page 2 of The Nation. Kinsley.
Okay, we also take a look at the Punch newspaper, and above its nameplate you have the following headlines. Nigeria spends 86% of revenue on debt servicing. South Africa, 20%. Train abduction, negotiations deadlocked, federal government seeks foreign assistance. No agreement with federal government, strike not ending soon. That's attributed to ASU, SANU, and NASU. Above those headlines, 9 banks' non-performing loans rise, hit 814 billion naira. That's according to reports. Gunmen killed 323 security operatives in 2022, says report. MTN, Airtel raking 615 billion naira from calls and data in 3 months. Blasphemy killing, that's the kicker for the lead headline. Our children won't attend school again, say Deborah's parents. Can to petition UN and US. 3 riders to that headline. Government has not contacted us. I went to fetch the cops myself, father laments. Northern Khan asks parents to stop sending children to Sokoto schools. Nigeria not an Islamic country. Gumi warns Muslims against killing. NDLEA busts drug cartels and fake employment syndicate. Containers clearing cost jumps by 67%, and vehicle parts prices soar. Amechi, Talin, and others may resign today. National Assembly transmits amended Electoral Act to Buhari. Leah Sharibu's family demands release at birthday ceremony. Emmanuel, that's the governor of Akwa Ibom, denies barring Atiku from Akwa Ibom delegates. 4 arrested as Okada riders kill and burn Lagos engineer. Over 100 naira. Police probe Bauchi APC chief's death. Arrest 3. Bio.
Thank you, Kinsley. Let's start with a report coming from Kaduna, and this is about a suspected Ansarul terrorist that bombed and abducted train passengers are reported to have released a pregnant passenger. The released pregnant passenger was called on federal government to please negotiate with the terrorists to save the lives of those who are still with them. This brings to 3 the number of persons freed from the clutches of the criminals. The earlier 2 are believed to have paid some quantum of ransom, but in her case, it is said that no ransom was paid. The Punch also is reporting that negotiations relating to the release of the abducted train passengers have broken down in a deadlock, in the sense that the demands by the terrorists for a swap of their commanders that are in detention had been declined. The Punch reports further that government is said to be seeking foreign assistance and technical assistance to resolve the impasse. Meanwhile, there's been tension reported in communities Mutundaya and Gunu, which is 10 minutes drive away from Mina, the Niger state capital. This is over forays of persons described as terrorists and bandits who, in their latest attack on Sunday, about between 5:30 a.m. and up to 11 a.m., continue to terrorize the people. Travelers during on that route, 20 kilometers from Mina, had to park because they were trapped and they couldn't go. The terrorists are said to be parading the area and moving freely on the highway. They are targeting farmers who are rearing cattle and in the area of Mararaba and Dandaudu village. President Muhammadu Buhari on Friday presided over the valedictory Federal Executive meeting for members who aspire for elective positions. Of the 10 members who were noted to be aspiring for elective positions, 2 are reported to have withdrawn from the quest for to contest. Dr. Chris Ngige is reported to have said after consulting the president and his family that he has chosen to step out of the aspiration to be a presidential candidate. Also reported to have changed his mind is Abubakar Malami, senior advocate of Nigeria, who is reported to have opted out of the Kebbi governorship aspiration. The deadline for prospective aspirants to hand in their resignation letter is today. Dr. Emeka Nwajuba notified the president of his resignation as far back as 28th of April. It appears that there is a clause in the APC constitution that requires that appointed officers are to resign 30 days to the date for which they are to attend the primaries to seek for election. Meanwhile,
But I was supposed to look at one of the items that we read there with respect to the abducted train passengers. That the federal government is asking for international assistance. I was just wondering the kind of assistance that they will be seeking for. Is it a logistic assistance? Is it a negotiation with the terrorists? Or what nature of assistance do you think the federal government should be needing by now? Recall that a couple of months ago, the governor of Kaduna State mentioned something of that sort. That he may seek for mercenaries. If the Nigerian government cannot handle the situation.
Well, in the case of Governor Nasir El-Rufai, he was completely appalled by the dominance of the terrorists, and he said if it is allowed, he would prefer to get mercenaries to take the war to the terrorists. But in this instance, if you are following the story there, they have an appeal that Nigeria should consult with the International Committee for the Red Cross and other such international agencies that internationally often intercede in hostage and crisis, like it happened in several times with persons from Northern Ireland and other places. They have expertise in negotiating between the two parties. Perhaps that is what they are asking. But from all indications, the pregnant woman that was rescued was even alluding to the fact that the people are treating them very well where they are, and she was appealing that government should please negotiate with them to get the orders out of the place. It seems there is a possibility of a breakthrough, except that if everybody keep on to harp on their own positions and are not prepared to give in, that is when you have a development of a deadlock. The other story of concern is that Governor Chukwuma Soludo, the governor of Anambra State, visited Mazi Nnamdi Kanu over the weekend, and he is reported to have said that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu has described as sacrilegious the killing and senseless killing every Monday sit at home that is decimating his people. And the detained IPOB leader had indicated that if there is an opportunity, he will be very willing to broadcast to his followers to stop if they are the ones involved in it. But on the heels of that, there was also been an announcement and warning that people should stay off the street today, Monday 16, and tomorrow 17, a day that it is expected that their leader is supposed to show up in court. So it is a difficult and dicey situation. Nobody can actually say what is happening. And the report that you read regarding the federal government having filed a suit, yes, the Attorney General of the Federation has filed a suit in which the President and the Attorney General of the Federation are the plaintiff, and they are asking the Supreme Court for interpretation. The National Assembly, it may be recalled, declined the president's request to delete section 8412. And if you also recall, a federal high court in Umuahia, just by, I think, last month, specifically on May, asked that that law be deleted. But the Court of Appeal last week nullified that. And the Court of Appeal specifically advised that constitutional advice could be sought from the apex court. And apparently that has been followed. And in this case now, the President, Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, the plaintiff, and the respondent is the National Assembly.
What was the basis for the nullification of the Umuahia judgment? Is it that the court does not have the jurisdiction to entertain the case?
Well, there are three critical points that the judge, the justices of the Court of Appeal identified. First and foremost, the fellow who filed the issue had no locus, and technically there were a lot of defects in the way it was filed. But due to the constitutional issues raised, it was the court, in its wisdom, advised that constitutional interpretation should be sought from the apex court.
Well, all right, but we call it a day here on Super Review. We hope to have you again back tomorrow for another session of Super Review on Good Morning Nigeria. We thank you for staying with us on the program up to this moment. We will have to take a short break now. When we come back, we'll of course focus on our main topic for conversation, which is of course the issue of throwing open the presidential contest by the major opposition party, the PDP.
A new edition of TV Guide is out, exclusively with Professor Umar Garba Dambata, Executive Vice Chairman of the Nigerian Communications Commission, NCC.
We have unveiled the 622 as a toll-free line through which consumers can be able to lodge their complaints. And we have introduced the 112 as a national emergency number.
This edition is a compendium of mind-blowing stories for your reading pleasure, ranging from technology, entertainment, economy, media, politics, family, and lots more. Pick up your copy and get abreast with issues and trending features within our space. TV Guide, very incisive, very educative and compelling. Grab a copy at the vendor near you or any NTA station nationwide. TV Guide, your indispensable companion. To every politician, as the campaigns gain momentum and passions begin to rise, remember, the errors of your opponents do not make you a success. Do not run down your opponent and inflame passions to violence between and among your supporters. What counts is what you plan to do for the electorate and how you intend to relieve their sufferings and bring succor. Nigeria is in dire need of patriotic leaders at all levels, leaders who will make national development their priority. Concentrate on telling the electorate what you intend to do when you get into office. Focus on making your vision clear to the electorate. Don't engage in verbal abuses, fake news or speeches. Keep dealing with issues that will bring progress. You win the hearts and minds of the people by being above board, by being civil, patriotic, and showing empathy. Let's join hands to make the 2023 elections peaceful. A message from the National Orientation Agency. The broadcast media ecosystem is dynamic and requires continuous training for practitioners to perform optimally. NTA Television College Jos invites relevant officers to the following specially packaged training programs: Protocol Event Management and Public Relations, date 2nd May to 13th May 2022, 2 weeks. Video Camera Maintenance, date 16th May to 27th May 2022, 2 weeks. Basic Television Production Techniques, date 16th May to 10th June 2022, 4 weeks. Photojournalism and Photography, date 6th June to 1st July 2022, 4 weeks. Intermediate Online News Reporting Skills, date 4th July to 29th July 2022, 4 weeks. Sports coverage and reporting skills in the mass media. Date 4th July to 15th July 2022, 2 weeks. The course fee for 2 weeks courses is 150,000 naira per participant, while the fee for 4 weeks courses is 180,000 naira only, accommodation inclusive. The venue for all courses is the serene and secure environment of NTA Television College near Old Government House, Rayfield, Jos. For more inquiries, please call 0803-079-5335 or 0806-9809-807. NTA Television College, Jos, training you to be the best you want to be.
Dialogue, empathy, love, and unity. These are vital components of nation building.
For all to be well, we appeal that we should refrain from volatile, provocative, inciting messages and language.
Let's build and not destroy.
It's Good Morning Nigeria. We are live as always on NTA's network service. As a prompt for our conversation, which is a continuation of our focus on open presidential primaries by the People's Democratic Party, let's listen to this background report put together by Garba Mohammed Natala.
As Nigeria marches towards the 2023 general election, political parties are leaving no stone unturned to present marketable candidates for the election. This may explain why the opposition People's Democratic Party (PDP) has decided to make its presidential primaries open to aspirants from all zones. This was the outcome of the party's 96th National Executive Committee meeting, where the party announced it has resolved to throw the presidential ticket open. The national chairman of the People's Democratic Party, Iyorchia Ayu, reaffirmed the commitment of the party to be fair to all aspirants in the internal processes ahead of the 2023 general elections.
I urge you all to continue with the same enthusiasm to resolve differences within the party among ourselves.
Also, the National Publicity Secretary of the party, Kola Olobundian, hinted that they are attempting to work towards a consensus candidate. Going forward, 28th and 29th of May 2022 have been adopted by the PDP as dates for its presidential primary in Abuja during a special national convention to be headed by former Senate President Senator David Mark as the organizing committee chairman. The polity has, however, been inundated with clamor for zoning. How would the PDP's decision be perceived by the public? Is there certainty that the open presidential contest will resolve many challenges? And what are the pros and cons of having a presidential primary that is open to all contestants? These are some questions guests will provide answers to on Good Morning Nigeria.
And joining us in the studio to discuss the topic is first Professor Abiodun Adeni of the Mass Communication Department, Bayes University, Abuja. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. Good morning.
Also with us on this conversation is Ezenwa Nwago. He is the chairman, Partners for Electoral Reform, and co-convener Say No Nigeria campaign. Welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much.
All right, gentlemen, once again, I'd like to have you back. You both, that's Professor Adeni and Ezenwa, you were with us when we kicked off this conversation on Friday, but we had barely gained the altitude when the program wrapped up, and we felt it wise to have you back in the studios to continue from where we left off. But two other fresh guests are joining the conversation this morning, and they're also regulars on Good Morning Nigeria here in the Abuja studios. Dr. Mukhtar Imam, a political scientist and public affairs analyst. Dr. Imam, delighted to have you on the program.
Thank you for having me.
All right, once we do get the all clear from one of our network centers, we'll get a guest to be part of today's conversation. Well, Dr. Imam, you are the freshest of the three guests in the studios. So let's have your take on this. Quite a number of dimensions to the decision by the People's Democratic Party to throw open these presidential primaries. Give us your perspective.
Well, I think it's a development that will be met with mixed feelings, apparently because it's coming from politicians, and any such issues that are emanating from a political space would, the natural reaction to it would be a mix of anxiety, skepticism, and so forth. But I think it's a welcome development from where I stand. The reason I'm saying this is because the issues of zoning as we have it and had it in the past is basically one that I feel has retarded people who have capacity and people who have merit to showcase themselves, because obviously the zoning arrangement is in a way meant to scratch the ego of certain individuals, and of course I assume it is meant again to reward certain individuals. And where you speak about governance, for even looking at it historically from where democracy has emanated from, it is a thing of merit and rather than mediocrity. But the reality is this zoning arrangement has not allowed people with impeccable character, people who have passion for governance, people who have business, first and foremost, with governance, to showcase themselves and to bring themselves out. Because at the end of the day, these things are going to be relegated to specific regions or terrains of the country. And it has not really helped. The same way we have had issues with the federal character principle, the same way we have had issues with the quota system. So my reaction to that would be, while it will be looked at with skepticism and anxiety, and which is the natural reaction to it, I think it's a welcome development.
Well, let me stay with you, because from available information, the zoning system is enshrined in the PDP's constitution.
Yes,
and the party actually kick-started zoning system in Nigeria. And the nation is a fragile democracy, whether you believe it or not, but that is what is on ground from all indications. And some persons will argue that, look, why is it now that you want to change the direction of the party, which is enshrined in the constitution?
Yes.
And you rightly said that that zoning doesn't allow for the best brains, or the bottom times, but if you look at PDP, for instance, those who are, gunning for this position have been known. We've known that nobody's new in the political terrain among them who are running. Yes. Now, what would we be telling the zone, which of course believes that it is our turn, and in that zone there must be credible persons that could run for that position?
Well, you see, very quickly, the issue of the fundamental issue here, right, for me, is that the zoning arrangement in itself, ab initio, is something that is, in my view, an aberration that has stunted growth and development. It is an offshoot of the question of citizenship, indigenship dichotomy. It is an offshoot of the federal character principle and the quota system. And in my view, these things have not in any way aided the process of progress within the democratic space called Nigeria. This is my perception, because I believe that the moment you begin to look at things from that angle, you see, all of the issues and agitations that we have had over the years is as a result of people questioning their status quo. It is as a result of the constant antagonism. It is as a result of a problem of question of citizenship and indigenship. Now, to draw it to your question, while the PDP started that arrangement, a few of us were opposed to that. when they started initially. But the reality is this, like it or not, at some point, these things are going to be expunged. Again, it has happened now. And like I said, whatever issues emanate from the political space will be met with mixed feelings. There's always going to be the reaction of anxiety. Obviously, politics is about interest. And that it is coming now, certain individuals will view it as trying to favor specific individuals within the party fold. Because when you throw it open, obviously you have left it to people who have deep pockets as well to be able to maneuver and take over the space. But my view, my take is, it shouldn't even, have happened in the first place.
Well, Dr. Mukhtar Imam, thanks a lot. My colleague Kirian said, and you also restated, that the PDP introduced the zoning arrangement. Maybe we should qualify that by saying in the Fourth Republic. Yeah. That is since 1999. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, in the Second Republic, we had zoning. The NPN had zoning as part of its cardinal operating principle. And that principle was agreed to by the chieftains of the party at La Pal House on Lagos Island in Lagos ahead of the 1979 elections. I did say on Friday when we started this conversation that K.O. Mbadiwe, we all know him, he was bombastic, well before the advent of Igodomigodo of Benin, that the NPN then was zoning to unzone. So the PDP, of course, has taken off from that that point, and we are where we are. We'll come back to you shortly. So, Professor Abiodun Adeniyi, again, let's have your take on this. I did say just before we wrapped up again on Friday that when you look at the party primaries in the Fourth Republic, yes, you can have zoning in mind, you can have zoning in principle, but no member of the political party who has aspired to participate in the primaries has been forbidden from doing so on account of the zoning arrangement enshrined even in the party's constitution. In other words, the contest is usually open, but the chieftains who decide one way or the other where the votes will go ultimately ensure that the principle of zoning is respected. Right. You were a political correspondent.
Yes,
that's your take, yes.
Very well, sir. I think really zoning is not necessarily, it's not a constitutional matter, as in being ingrained, entrenched in the ground norm of the country. It's often a gentleman's agreement, and it was only PDP that ensured that it was in their constitution on the eve of these republic, on the eve of the Fourth Republic. Perhaps we need to remember, before I answer your question directly, sir, that zoning came as a way, to remedy some of the imperfections of military era, where leadership was determined by seniority and all of that, irrespective of the origin or the region of the person. And of course, it was in the wisdom of the leaders then that let's have zoning, as a soft measure, of mitigating, some of our divergences as a fragile state, And of course, it served the purpose very well, at the takeoff of the Fourth Republic, because of course we had President Obasanjo who came and assuaged, the otherwise frayed nerves, that was evident in the Southwest on account of the annulment of the June 12th, etc., etc. But I made an argument on Friday that are we not really moving forward from the necessity, from the requirement, for the need for zoning, considering that we have practiced democracy in the last 22, 23 years now, and we know that zoning is a soft, intangible, non-physical aspect of managing plurality. Governor Rufai, I said it again on Friday, experimented it for 3 years ago in Kaduna, and there's no argument that, people from the area that is not supposedly represented in the governorship, deputy governorship bracket, have been excluded from the benefits of governance. Shouldn't that begin to take our mind to the fact that if we are much more concerned about merit, about performance, about the productivity of the individual, we would not necessarily be reminded of our differences, which often brings to the question of zoning, the question of rotation to the fore. And the other aspect of it is that zoning rotation is just one aspect of managing a classifier, in a society. There are different reasons, different yardsticks that we can use to classify systems and society. You can do classifications on account of age, you can do it on account of income, you can do it on account of religion, etc., etc. So why are we privileging zoning? Simply because on the basis of geography, it might, the time is probably around us for us to realize that we might be moving away from it, just like we see in more sophisticated democracy where the question of zoning does not arise, And of course, we have also had zoning, irrespective of the zoning that we've been having since 1999, we've had situations where party hierarchy, influential persons will come and say, this is the person that we prefer for this position, without necessarily stopping others from contesting. So it reminds us of the power of consensus, irrespective of the so-called zoning. We're going to have elections, yes, but irrespective of the inter-party elections, we're still going to have some element of consensus building where the leaders of the party, the most influential will come and say, this is the person that is most appropriate for us. And you see delegates voting along that line. You may argue that, well, there might have been some handout given to them, there might have been some pecuniary interest, but within it too is a meet, is a resolution of the party leadership that this is the most preferred candidate. And we're going to see this play out at the end of this month when the parties will be doing their primaries. So essentially, 2 points now. We're probably moving, we're probably advancing in our democracy 22, 23 years down the line, where we want to begin to de-emphasize being responsive to classifiers. And secondly, we need to be careful. Secondly, we need to be mindful of the amount of classifiers, item in the classification that we want to be attending to if we are concerned about growth and development. Merit, performance may be coming to the fore, where we'll be concerned about leaders that will not remind us of our differences. And we have made the point severally that we're not the only heterogeneous society, and there's no solely heterogeneous society in the world. Neither do we have a solely homogeneous society in the world. What matters is the management of these differences, the management of heterogeneity and homogeneity, as the case could be.
Yes, well said. The management of our differences, that's a very good point I'm going to take from you. One wonders if the key players in the political space are taking cognizance of the pulse of majority of Nigerians and their own thinking pattern, because after all said and done, we have a majority of Nigerians are not so lettered to understand the intricacies of what we're talking about, because we have gotten matured politically, that we should perhaps, jettison some of the decisions taken in the past that unites us. But what we will agree is the fact that Nigeria is still a tribalized nation, it's a sectionalized nation. We have religious sentiments and what have you, which you cannot rule out. What happened in Sokoto a few days ago is a clear indication of what I'm talking about. So, what do you think this will do to the entire polity if, the two major parties happen to throw open the presidential contest in the primaries that's coming very soon?
Well, I think that the conversation needs to be elevated beyond the people you said don't understand. We need to elevate the conversation in a way that drives public good. And we are managing the anger and frustration of the dispossessed, in my view. Dispossessed within a class. Every time we talk about zoning, not zoning, the people are not part of that conversation. They are not in it. They don't have any investment in who they cry for, is our turn or not our turn. At the end of the day, it is about stakeholdership, the quality of the stakeholdership within the political parties. In our country, you see people who say this person or that person has been funding the party. And that person who has been funding the party controls the machinery, administration, and structure of the party, and wheels that political party in the direction where his own sentiments or draws at a particular point in time. So if what you require to get what you want as a financier or group of financiers of the party, if what they think drives most the ability to get what they want at any particular point in time is zoning, then they put zoning, they inflate zoning in the consciousness of everybody and make it look like that is the way to go. When they feel disadvantaged, when they feel that the zoning will disadvantage them, they go back to non-zoning. So anytime you hear that discussion, I always sit down and say, how does this play for the ordinary people who will have some excitement about somebody coming from their area? But we have to then drive the conversation much more deeper to say, how does this democracy work for the Nigerian people who may not be part of this class that I'm talking about? Go to some states where the strongest agitation for zoning is strong. There is a contest for Senate in that place. The dominant forces within that place are saying no zoning. In those other places where the overall cry is for zoning. But there are dominant figures within those places who have appropriated the office that the particular office that they want for themselves, and they are fighting everything about zoning in that place. So you see that the relationship has much to do with what people want at any particular point in time than what galvanizes the change, the kind of reforms, the kind of country that we want to build. So I appreciate I was telling my boss Oga Kinsley yesterday on Friday that I don't want to be drawn into this thing about the let us conclude it. People have gotten, at the end of the day, go around this country, and I've had the privilege of going around the country at least more than 3 times. The uniting thing is poverty, malnutrition, hunger, starvation, and that is not in the front burner of conversation. Is not ever put at the center of conversation. What we put at the center of conversation is to drive the anger and frustration of people who are dispossessed within the system, who want to manipulate everybody for advantage. And I think that it is high time that we are able to put the conversation in a way that the Nigerian people can understand that what is required at this time is somebody or set of people who understand the dire need to take the country out of the kind of challenge that it is facing. And those who can do that will not wear tribal marks. If you go to Anambra State during the Anambra election, the conversation got to the point where naturally Anambra is supposed to be a Christian community. But it got to the point where it now became whether you are an Anglican or a Catholic. So the elite of the country will always find something to drive at any point in time. Once the zoning thing is not working, they will find something that is atavistic that they can use to continue to, capture the imagination of the ordinary people. And we have a responsibility, in my view, to continue to shatter that and put what majority of the Nigerian people want, which is good governance for the betterment of the kind of country that we want to live in.
All right, well, thank you very much there for your comments. Back again to Dr. Mukhtar Imam. Dr. Imam, the point has also been argued by some observers that the party primaries are not an end in themselves. That ultimately it is to produce candidates.
Yes.
And it is candidates who are on the ballot, or the candidates and their political parties that are on the ballot, that the electorate gets stuck with. And so will the fear of domination, according to this line of thought, not continue to fester despite the issues raised by Ezenwa Nwagu, if perchance the candidates you have are from just one section of the country? And at the same time, you have embedded in the Constitution Section 14, which talks about the federal character principle. And therefore, if you say merit and merit and merit, why don't you expunge that from the Constitution and then let everyone contest in a free and fair manner?
Well, you see, the question of, I had always had the assumption, for lack of a better word, that it is because our Constitution tolerates issues such as this that we're having this recurrent decimal of these problems within the lower, within the different layers of our political system. But the reality is this: when you look at things, you come to realize that even Section 14, which you spoke about now, is basically focused on social equality. The issue around Section 14, you will find that virtually nowhere in the Constitution was the question of indigene mentioned, except where the Constitution talks about the nomination of ministers, which must have a spread across the different states of the Federation. And there it says that an indigene of each state must be selected to represent the state at the federal cabinet. This is what that section of the Constitution talks about. But the question of Section 14 is solely on social equality. And it is talking about the representation of every Nigerian's interest. It is when you go into the Federal Character Act, that is where the conversation around deepening citizenship, indigenship question comes up. But again, we still have an act, we still have a document, a legal tender that basically reinforces the issue of indigenship and citizenship and state of originship and so on and so forth. And these are some of the things that have continued to intensify the balkanization of this country. It is not helpful in any way. So again, while we're talking about, the reason why we're emphasizing on merit and talking about these things being thrown open is because at the end of the day, there is absolutely no way people would say we are selecting people from one segment or one section of the country entirely to represent us. These things are only, the question of zoning or no zoning is glaring at the federal level. It is at the central level, and we must understand that any meaningful and sustainable development in this country can only come from the subnationals. So when we talk about the issue of zoning and the issue of merit, the reason why the school of thought that antagonizes zoning is there is because where we throw these things open, Nigerians will see people for who they are, select or elect them based on their merits. And that is what will salvage this country. That is what will bring about good governance. Because again, like we have often talked about, bad governance is like a stray bullet. It doesn't pick and choose from what region of a country you're from. So this for me is the position, and I think it should be thrown open. The zoning has not helped us in any way. It has further reinforced the things that galvanizes the thought of average Nigerians, which is thinking regionally, thinking religiously, thinking and so on and so forth. You know, this primordial thoughts. So in my view, I think throwing it open and allowing or the removal of zoning because of obviously is not represented or indicated either clearly or by inference in the Constitution, and the drafters of our constitutions were not mistaken.
Well, some other school of thought, has it that our democracy, it could be up to 23 years, but can still be regarded as nascent. Even in America, that's had over 200 years of the democracy. That's ethnicity in America. As a matter of fact, when Harry became the vice president, it was celebrated as the first Hispanic, to get to that point. When Obama became president, it was celebrated that a black man wants, So such a country with a long experience of democratic, principles, could be attaching importance to indigenship, where somebody comes from, and which office he or she occupies. Now, recently, Biden appointed a black lady at the Supreme Court of America. It's celebrated as the first of its kind, in the history of America, and all of that. So many people are also reasoning along the line of, look, this zoning should be sustained to give every zone equal opportunity to run the affairs of the country. If, for instance, you challenge the Constitution that a minister must come from every part of the state, why not say no? Why not go for merit? Why are you distributing it? It's also part of ensuring that other persons from different parts of the country contribute to the governance of the country. We're going to come back to you in a short while, but for now, let's introduce one of our guests. He's in Benin studio, Dr. Asaya Osifo, two-time chairman of Council area in Edo State, the pioneer chairman of Edo State chapter of the Association of Local Governments of Nigeria, ALGON. Good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning.
I take it that you've had the opportunity of listening to our guests here in the studio, but let's take your first comment. What is your thought with respect to the fact that the main opposition party in Nigeria, the PDP, has thrown open its primaries with disregard to zoning principle enshrined in the party's constitution?
Well, thank you very much. There are two basic factors that need to be objectively examined. The first is political parties want to win election, and because of that, the workout strategy and organizational tactics that they can put together for the purpose of electoral victory. Parties want to win election to have political power in order to translate their manifestos into programs and policy for the generality of the people. So the second factor is Nigerians want good governance. Now, when you just oppose these two positions, political parties that want to win election, and that is important, it's a major factor, and Nigerians that want good governance. Now, the issue of zoning will not create a problem. Will not create a problem in the sense that internal democracy parties have the responsibility to regulate their affairs, to have strong organization, to convince electorates, and to form government. So to PDP, what they have done is the right thing because they want to win election. And they feel the way they can win is to throw the presidential primaries open so that the delegates in the political party can make a choice of the one they preferred, they perceive to be the best, that will present to Nigerians. Now, that is what they are doing. That is their focus, because they are in opposition. They believe that the best strategy right now to win is to allow all members of the party, irrespective of their zone, to participate in the presidential primary so that delegates can have the liberty to make their choice. Then, after that, it is time for Nigerians to decide whether the candidate the PDP is presenting is good enough to offer them good governance. So if the Nigerians say so, that this particular candidate, irrespective of his or her geopolitical zone, is good enough to provide them good governance, then so be it. But to say on this, summarily on this, that the foundation is known to almost everybody. The parties want to win. Nigerians want governance. The PDP has not done wrong. The Nigerians will make a final choice. Then what is then the essence of zoning or no zoning? The essence will be the historical factors that will determine sustainability of zoning or justice zoning, so you can continue to work out strategy. So it is a historical thing. It is a social thing. The combination of political history and the sociology of the people put together will determine the political culture. And now it is the political culture eventually that is going to finalize these discussions as to whether parties will now enshrine their constitution, the principle of zoning, or they are going to continue to leave it open. But historically, at the present level that we occupy now, the parties are saying we want to win. Nigerians are saying they want good governance. If you look at the First Republic, political parties were organized around regional interests. And the issue of who is going to be the presidential candidate or the prime minister was so difficult to decide because the regional leader was the head of the party. Now, in the Second Republic, political parties were almost individually owned. The question of who is going to be the presidential candidate was not an issue because the owners of the party were the presidential candidate. Now we are now reached a level where the parties appear to be liberalized. And, it's no longer regional, it's no longer sole ownership, but partnership in membership of the political party. Then the next thing that you want for us to talk about, how do we win at this period? Or maybe in the future, there could be the need for them to put zoning in their constitution. So zoning or no zoning is historical, is sociological, formulated into the political culture of the people, of course, affecting the political behavior of party leaders and their members.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Isaiah Osifo. I just want to stay with you with this question. Namely, we had seen even with the PDP when it was in power for some 16 years that despite the provision for zoning in its choice of presidential candidates, whenever they had the special convention to choose their candidate for the presidential election, it was ultimately an open one in the sense that any and everyone could participate. After 8 years of Obasanjo, for instance, in 2007, and ahead of that at the convention in 2006 here in the Federal Capital Territory, everybody said, look, those who were the PDP said it was a turn of the North to then produce the presidential candidate. But again, you had persons from other parts of the country who took part in the primaries. And one of them, of course, was Rochas Okorocha, who in fact came a distant second in that contest. So I had raised the point earlier that yes, even though the party presidential primaries might be thrown open, the oligarchs in the party ultimately have a way of swaying the delegates to pick whom they believe would be a candidate that can win a plurality of votes in the national election. Give us your take.
Yes, you're right. It depends on upon the level of the party organization. We are in a multi-party system in Nigeria. Different political parties have different style of leadership. In the PDP, I think that the party is big. They have so many governors, they have so many leaders, former president. Yes, there are people that have influence in the political party, but ultimately, the choice of the presidential candidate will depend on the majority opinion of the delegates. Of course, looking at the Nigerian nation, a heterogeneous country like Nigeria, people coming from different backgrounds, religious, tribal, all that. At the time they get to the convention, so many issues will come into play as to the final determination of who they want to take. So the oligarchs or the top leadership of the party, yes, we have their preference, we have their choice, but it is a competitive thing that there's no longer sole control of the political party. In most of the parties that we have now in Nigeria, even when you have a president in a political party, it is even difficult now to have a sole control. So when you get to the convention in the presidential primaries, there will be this competition or conflict of interest among the oligarchs or among the cabals, as the case may be. So in such competitive environment, you see that issues and then begin to narrow down the focus of the delegates. So yes, the Rochas Okorocha contested, even though it was not zoned to the south at that particular time. That is because it is not explicitly stated in the party constitution that zoning shall be sacrosanct and it shall be obeyed by members of the party in a rotational order. It is an informal thing. It's an in-house arrangement that for fairness and distribution, this thing should rotate. But again, when there is a major interest of a political party wanting to win an election, all these issues can become a second fiddle to the major issue of getting power from the government in order to form power. So right now, I think what is informing the decision of the PDP, they are in opposition. They want to get power. They want the delegates to choose the best, and they hope the best will be good enough for Nigerians.
Well, we are just hoping and believing that the political parties also have Nigerians in mind, Nigeria's thinking in mind. Because in Nigeria, everybody is a politician. If you go to the hinterland, a palm wine tapper is a politician and he has knowledge of what is going on. Now, Prof, this issue of zoning could be said to be a derivative of the federal, character principles, if you like. And as a heterogeneous nation, what would you think that the majority of Nigerians will feel? How would they feel if a particular section of the country continues to produce the president of this country, of course you know there are already agitations in the country. Would that augur well for the sustenance of democracy in the country, irrespective of the party, the internal democracy, or whatever reasoning that they have, you know, to not to adhere to zoning? What will be the resultant effect if that happens, if one section continues to produce a president in Nigeria of ours today?
Yeah, I think, and that's why I tried to make a point earlier that zoning, you know, is a soft, non-physical aspect of nation building, mainly meant, you know, to satisfy the emotional, sentimental disposition of nationals, you know, citizens in a nation. You know, the physical aspect will have to do with evidence of development. You know, you have the ability of government, you know, to meet the yearnings and aspirations of the people, you know, to reduce poverty, you know, bring about literacy, you know, infrastructure, improve infrastructures and utilities. The problem we have had in this country is that our leaders, most leaders, have always been those who patronize their cleavages, you know, they pander to the wishes of their primary constituency, and it has led to a situation where we've been able over the years to produce a national hero who once more will not remind us of our differences. You know, if we're able to have that national hero, and it can come by happenstance. We have seen it at other levels of government, you know, at subnational level we have seen it, at agency level we have seen people who can be called, you know, national heroes. They are examples, but we are yet to see it at the political level. Somebody who will not remind us of our differences, who will meet, you know, the yearnings and aspirations of the people largely, such that people will not begin to, or will reduce that quest for emotional, sentimental belonging that can only be portrayed through the fact that my own is a president. You just have that feeling that my own is a president, you know, but that feeling just, it stops there. It doesn't equal, it doesn't bring about, it doesn't, it's not equivalent, it doesn't bring about development. It doesn't mean that your laws have been improved. You are still a suffering person, you are still somebody you want, somebody who's still full of needs. So we're here to get to that stage, and that's the problem really. You know, if we get to that stage, or if we see a semblance of it, you know, the quests, you know, the sing-songs around zoning will begin to reduce. And let me quickly, I had earlier, Eze mentioned the question of Anambra being predominantly Christian, and of course at some point people are beginning to differentiate between whether you're a Catholic or an Anglican, and that's how I was talking about the limitlessness of classification. Classification can be extremely limitless. Now by the time you finish from whether you're a Catholic or an Anglican now, you begin to talk where the person lives, you know, is the person short or tall, is he yellow or black, is he on the fat side or on the slim side. So it's endless. There has to be a point where it will stop, so that you now concentrate on the hard physical aspect of life, you know, the one that will even up to good living, you know. And that's the thing that I think we should start thinking about, and we can only think about it through the prism of good leadership. You know, when will that one emerge? I don't know. We have seen semblances of it. We have seen those who have been close to it, you know, but we are just not there yet.
Okay, Professor Abiodun Adeniyi, thank you very much. I know your comments, along with the other guests, are normative in the sense of what should be an ideal situation for us as a country. But we also have to deal with our current realities and how long those realities might fester before we hit the normative ideal that you gentlemen have spoken about. Ezenwa, I know you are concerned about the ends of power, that is to say the utility of power. Yes, you have this power, what does it do for good governance? But our current reality is as follows, and I'm sure you must have heard the expression that the office of the President of the Federal Republic, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces in Nigeria, is the most powerful president anywhere in the world. It may be by way of hyperbole, but people say it that it's the most powerful office, and it could make or mar a people or a country. And that's why, again, there are advocates of zoning to be sure that everyone else, has an opportunity not to hold and misuse that power, but to achieve the ends that you talked about earlier.
Yes, I do appreciate the sentiments that drive the zoning argument. But I've also looked at how we have made a fetish of the federal and have limited the capacity of the subnationals to divest us from some of these things that are holding us down. The essence of bicameralism, in my view, is to deal in some sense with the issues of diversity. And so my challenge is that people have privatized the benefits that come from representation at the federal level. They've privatized it to the point where the people no longer feel the essence of, for instance, having a minister from every state. I've made the argument that if there is a livestock transformation policy, it's the business of the minister from my state, for instance, to go back to the state, organize a town hall, and educate the people about the benefit of what you call Ruga, for instance. Now, that doesn't happen. The man who represents me in the Federal House of Representatives personalizes that office. He does not use it to drive those things that trigger that sense that we don't belong. But somebody represents me at the federal level. He has first and foremost the responsibility to connect me to the center and bring the center back to me. So did that disconnect? Because that is not happening, we have this feeling that if we have somebody at the presidency, then our problem is resolved. Until we begin to do leadership audit at both the subnational and those people who represent us at the federal level and see whether they've been able to really represent us in a way that helps to divest some of these issues. Whether anybody likes it or not, a senator will come from my senatorial zone. It doesn't have to do with whether somebody is excited about the face of that person or not. Somebody will be my representative. Somebody will be councillor. These people are having a holiday in the sense that nobody bothers about them. Nobody is interested about them. And so for me always is that, yes, we can have the emotional feeling that somebody from our place is president, but it may not at the end of the day, because there is some other person who has responsibility to bring governance in a way that can touch me on daily basis. That person is absent from the conversation about good governance. So we can theorize and at the end of the day let it go round. By the time it goes round, we will do what you are asking me about the end, the utility, because the question will be, at the end of the day, my brother has been commissioner. I have had relations who are commissioners in my state. How did it translate to the betterment and the life of the people who they represent in the cabinet of the governor? Nothing. What you have seen is that people who have taken those kind of positions, like I said, privatize the benefits of that place. And so the people constantly feel a sense of alienation. So it is not just normative. It is about dealing with the challenges that we face that has driven some of these push and pulls that continue to drive the conversations that we have. If we are able to bring quality to representation, then some of the crises that we have will go away. And taking you back to the parties, I have challenged when I see textbook analysis of the challenge that we face in political parties. The reality is that today the political parties are still privatized. We are here in 1999 when people went to Jos and delegates were camped in Bauchi and Abuja. They drove straight into the stadium. All of us saw it. And then At the end of the day, things changed and Obasanjo emerged. We were here in 2019.
The oligarchs were at work.
Yes, in 2019, we were here when somebody took the convention of the PDP to his state, to his own state, and determined that that convention must hold in that state, and if it doesn't hold in that state, that he would, and everybody capitulated to that, and it held in that place. So there are owners of this party, the stakeholdership of these political parties have determined the complexioning of how things run in the party. So if today the owners of the party feel that zoning is what satisfies their interest, they will put it, they can reset the agenda and the narrative, and they are doing that effectively. In the next few months, you will have the argument about why we need to, drive merit and all of that. When they are shortchanged, when they are dispossessed again, they will come back and say that zoning is the only thing that can help us. But my consistent argument is, where does this leave the ordinary Nigerian who for the past 22 years have looked to government at the subnational and the federal level to drive the issue of health, to stop medical tourism, to set up centers of excellence for health, to drive primary schools, that public schools and universities that can be a pride to this nation? That has not happened, and is not happening, in spite of the fact that whether they are state universities or federal universities, the issue of infrastructure deficit continue to be the issue. So we need to change the conversation, and that is why I'm saying I don't care what the political parties will bring. I want a citizen-centered conversation for 2023. How can citizen groups and organizations capture the narrative and begin to drive it, rather than allow people who have toiled with our sensibilities in the last 22 years to continue to be the ones setting the agenda and telling us what to discuss or what not to discuss?
All right, thank you. I can feel your pulse on this matter, but of course, in every climb, there are stakeholders in politics. There are people who fund these parties. There are people who determine who goes where. The scenario you painted in 1999, it was a foregone conclusion that the oligarchs, as my colleague mentioned, we are rooting for Obasanjo. Yeah, simple as that. That was the master plan. Because of what happened, because of the annulment of June 12 election. Let us say these facts. These are the issues. We're a nation that needs to be, I wouldn't use the word pampered, but a nation that needs to be properly managed so that we remain an indivisible nation. That is the issue here. The zoning aspect of leadership in this country came up because of that matter. So we don't disintegrate. Now, there's a school of thought that says, look, that the zoning principle in politics has helped to ensure a sense of balance, rotation, and inclusion, but to jettison it for purposes of expediency would be counterproductive and costly. And in an ideal situation, every aspect of national life should be driven by merit. But there's nothing ideal about Nigeria, and that is why we run a turn-by-turn democracy. Dr. Imam, if you run a turn-by-turn democracy and sustain the nation as an indivisible entity, is it not better than jettisoning it because some persons would want to take advantage of the current situation to emerge as Nigerian leaders?
We have to always single out Nigeria and say, in a climb like Nigeria, I think that's derogatory. I think it's demeaning. Because we hope to achieve certain things that are not nationalistic, whether in the short, medium, or long term, does not mean we should jettison the ideal thing that should be done. When we speak of zoning, in the last 23 or even beyond 23 years, what exactly has zoning, to what end, what benefit have we seen from zoning? Those who leadership has been zoned to their region, what impact have they made even for their own region? You spoke about the United States earlier when you were talking about, when you were making these instances. The truth of the matter is, you see, the average American is a part of a stakeholder that ensures the selection from the beginning of individuals who are giving flag bearership of the political parties. So from that early stage, he's brought into the conversation. And when you talked about the nomination of individuals who are from the black community and whatnot, these are appointive positions, and that's exactly what Section 14 of our Constitution is trying to address. But to continue to talk about the zoning arrangement, of course, there is no bickering around the fact that what has been done now is for political expedience. There's no bickering around that. The truth is, what else hasn't been done for political expedience? It is all about politics. So you will constantly have these things play out. What should be the ideal scenario is to allow for people who have capacity to come into position of authority, even though we must excuse Aristotle, the founders of democracy, who have said democracy, or who classifies democracy as one of the worst form of government, because he believes people who have no business with governance are elected into position of authority. And his assumption is that democracy is not about merit, but it's about populism. So yes, these issues are there and will always be there. But where we are right now, you see, there's in Kenya, is there a zoning arrangement? When Uhuru came back, what did we see? People protested. They almost slapped PLO Lumumba, and they said it is the time for the Moi people. The Kikuyu people have been ruling for too long. It's a peculiarity with African politics. But should we continue along that line? Because if we continue along that line, what we are doing is that we will consciously or subconsciously reinforce the issue of ethnicity, the issue of regionalism, the issue of religion, and these other sentiments that are primordial, ahead of other issues. And this is what we're saying shouldn't be the case, because the social psychological conditioning of the average Nigerian is important to the conversation. You see, today, let me give you a classical example of all these theories I'm trying to throw up. In a place like Gwagwalada, the man, the current or outgoing chairman, won under the platform of Abga. He's from Suleja. He's an indigene of Gwagwalada. Sorry, Zuba. He's an indigene of Gwagwalada. Guess what? Shortly after the election, protest, burning of properties around Gwagwalada. What is the issue? They said, how can a party like Abga come and win election in Gwagwalada? They are not from here. Mind you, this man who won this election is from here. So these are the issues. We will constantly have these altercations back and forth. I am born in a place like Anambra, for example. I have lived there. My grandparents have lived there. I cannot contest election. People will begin to remind me where I am from, even though perhaps I have the capacity to deliver. The people who are from here, what have they done? Since we came into democracy, what exactly have the chairman in Abuja, for example, done to their local government? This is not to cast aspersion on anybody. But then the realities are what they are. So we should allow these things to be thrown open, particularly at the national level, because whoever emerges president is supposed to be a unifier. So taking this stance, for me, I don't think it's wrong. Yes, like I said, issues of this sort will always have mixed feelings. There's always going to be the anxiety, there's always going to be the skepticism, there's always going to be fear, because people do not, there's a trust deficit. It's not just between leadership and led, but between the entire political class and the citizens of the country.
All right, Dr. Mukhtar Imam, thank you very much. And gentlemen, we're going to take a short break now. When we return, we'll continue with the conversation.
The Nigerian aviation sector is rapidly growing with the construction of new international airport terminals in several regions of the country. The new Murtala Mohammed International Airport has an estimated passenger increase of 30 million annually and 15 million for Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja. Malam Aminu Kano International Airport is also expected to open new frontiers for the region with more travel capacity for the annual Hajj, while the new Akanu Ibiam International Airport, Enugu, avails more business opportunities connecting the industrial cities in the region to the world. These new terminals beat world-class standards with enabling infrastructure that aid air travel, tourism, and the eventual growth of the country's GDP.
Open up commerce and, of course, link us to international societies.
People from international community will come here to do business, and then that will bring in more revenue to the state.
Now, distances can be seamlessly covered as Nigeria keeps raising its bar to suit global infrastructure standards.
Do you run a breast or cervical cancer service? Are you a private or public laboratory, clinic, or hospital? capital that offer any of breast imaging, cervical cancer screening, HPV vaccination, or other breast or cervical cancer services? Is your service a primary, secondary, or tertiary center located in any part of Nigeria, no matter how remotely located it is? If yes to any of these questions, then subscribe to the OCI Foundation's Savvy Breast app and become accessible and visible to millions of Nigerians. It is all for free. To subscribe, just type the Savvy Breast application form on Google or go to the OCI Foundation's page on www.ocifoundation.org and search for Savvy Breast application form. Complete the form and submit, and let millions of Nigerians patronize you, all for free. Become part of the OCI Foundation's quest to tackle breast and cervical cancers in Nigeria. And join us as we rise by lifting others.
The counsel of our fathers.
My advice to these young people is please do not take us back to those harrowing days. You probably do not know what it is.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
The Digital Switchover project, which is commonly referred to as DSO, which entails television channels switching from analog to digital broadcasting, is one of the biggest projects embarked upon by this administration. Branded as Free TV, offers its viewers about 60 digital channels, including sports, music, movies, and news. The federal government has licensed about 23 set-top box manufacturers. 7 of them have self-production, employing several thousands of people. We've made it now compulsory for all stations in Nigeria to only broadcast productions made in Nigeria for products which are produced in Nigeria.
You're welcome back, and it's still Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of NTA. We have all our 4 guests here with us, 3 in the studios, and Dr. Isaiah Osifo in our Benin Network Center. Dr. Isaiah Osifo, my question is coming to you on this occasion. Namely, you're all familiar with the saying that what goes around comes around. If the PDP at the national level for the presidential primaries says no zoning, what will be the knock-on effect in subsequent elections? Because we know that a number of states have on their own, and of course copying also from the national experience, practiced what is often referred to as micro-zoning, so that amongst the 3 senatorial districts, you would have a governor come from one part of the state, a deputy comes from another part, and after the end of 8 years or 4 years, depending on if the governor survives or ends 8 years, the power goes to another senatorial zone. So if the PDP knocks down zoning for the presidential primaries, what could that do to the harmonious relationship or working understanding of the political parties at the subnational level?
Well, thank you very much. I think that the decision of the PDP to through their presidential primaries open, like I mentioned before, is driven by the desire to capture power at the center. I don't think any political party or government will completely jettison zoning as a form of a social requirement for national integration and development. There must be, and there will always be, the marriage of zoning and merit. And listening to Izewa talking about citizen-based discussion, I learned something, and that is, instead of concentrating the issue of discussion of zoning on the presidential primaries, how about zoning and these other issues of importance in terms of selection of candidates at the local level? If we take it at that level, in terms of believing that development from below is more sustainable than development from above, now the anxiety about the decision of the PDP of throwing the presidential primaries over will be minimized. The center is equally important, because the roles and the influence of the central government can equally help to energize the sub-nationals, using your word, and the local subsidiaries into accepting a system, a culture that can bring about redevelopment. And what will bring about this redevelopment? The quality of the candidate and the consciousness and the enlightenment of the citizens to vote for the right candidate. And all these can only be effective if you have the institutional framework. Now, let me tell you, if you take the role of the institution in terms of the decision of the political party, you will discover that the institutional mentality or level of development is the independent variable here as to determine the action of the political party. If parties believe and they have confidence in the ability of the institutions that are responsible for the conduct of election, they will be careful when they are taking that decision. So you cannot exclude the institutional framework and capacity from the mentality or the culture or behavior of the political party. That's summarily say, or in a simple manner, if Nigerians and parties believe that elections will be free and fair, then when they are making their decision, they were making their choice, they too will be careful as to who they're going to present to Nigerians. So if INEC can guarantee a free and fair election, let any party go and pick out their candidates from Zamfara State and see whether Nigerians will vote for the candidate. So if the Nigerians believe that this man or woman, irrespective of where he or she comes from, will provide us good governance, and we're going to the pool to elect our choice, like we have in advanced democracy in America, in Britain, irrespective of what you think, irrespective of your sentiment, irrespective of your organization or your noise, eventually, who becomes American president is going to be decided by Americans. So if we have that level, we'll get to that level in Nigeria, whereby Nigerians will be the sole determinant of who will be their president. I bet you, political parties will be careful in their selection of candidates, either by application of zoning or by emphasis on merit. But I believe, as an individual, from research, it will be improper to throw away zoning. The best thing to do is a marriage of zoning and merit. And right now, what the PDP is doing is consciousness of merit in terms of the position they find themselves as a major opposition political party that have been in government before. And they have seen what is going on, and they believe that at this time in the history of Nigeria, merit will be the factor that will drive their campaign. Therefore, if we are talking about merit, let this thing be open and allow the delegates to make their choice. I've witnessed most of the presidential primaries of the PDP. The one in Jos in 1998, the one in the rest one in Port Harcourt. I want to say that Nigerians are doing well, either in the political party or in the general election. They know what they want. They know what to do. Yes, the cabals, the leaders of the party may have the preference, but in most cases, majority opinion of the people will prevail. So I think that is what is going to happen again this time around. Parties that are well organized, such as parties that are well organized, can conduct free and fair primaries and allow the people to make their choice. But again, at the subsidiary level or at the intermediate level, state and local level, as the case may be, parties will be careful in terms of making choice by jettisoning completely zoning, because zoning will play a role merit will play a role. So the marriage of zoning and merit is going to give us a sustainable, responsible democracy. But at an epochal a period like as epochal as we have now in the history of Nigeria, looking at the sensibility and the issues in discourse in Nigerian politics and policy, I will not blame any political party that is throwing their presidential primaries open.
All right, we now understand your own belief, as you rightly said, that at the center here, the PDP is throwing open the contest of primaries, but at subnational level, zoning should be maintained. In my state, that is what is hitting the polity in that area because of zoning. Some persons said, look, we have zoned since 1999, and the zoning has gotten to all the zonal structure of the state. And someone says, look, now everybody has had a turn. It's now time to throw it open. And that's a very big issue there. And it's also a PDP state. Let's see how that plays out. Now, Prof, as you speak, the APC is yet to take a decision on zoning. Do you think that the PDP's action may compel the governing APC to also throw open its presidential ticket to all zones of the country, considering what our guest from Benin said, that the parties want to win election?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're already getting there. At first, I'm not sure there was any definitive pronouncement earlier on where the presidency should come from, on how the zoning arrangement should be. But the closest we had to it was a pronouncement by Governor El-Rufai at the time, that they've decided to swap the range of positions between the north and the south, So that implicated the fact that, they wanted the president, to come from the southern part of the country, especially because against the background of the national chairman coming from the north central. So we saw many aspirants coming from the south, as the case could be. Nothing definitive yet. We're still waiting for. It appears as if they are still waiting for some word, from the president, who is the leader of the party. But from going on now, it's also becoming very clear. Later on, as candidates from the north started emerging, which president of the Senate, which is appearing like the emergence of president of the Senate is looking like their own ace, against the possibility of an Atiku emerging as the PDP, candidate, the likelihood of Atiku coming up as the PDP candidate. So they are the two behemoths. There's no doubt that they can discountenance what is happening within them, because it will determine where the votes we sway, as the case could be. But again, we are forgetting that the other political parties apart from these two parties is okay, but maybe in further analysis it's also maybe good to give them attention, because irrespective of the fact that they may lack ability in terms of commanding votes, they contribute to the population of the idea space, in the ongoing conversations around the evolution of our democracy. But essentially, I see APC not resting on its laurels completely with regards to zoning until they are sure of where the pendulum will swing regarding PDPs as well. They'll continue to look at each other, voyeurism, if you like, while also being bothered about the preferences of the oligarchs, like my boss here said, or what the hegemons want, the direction the hegemons will want the pendulum to swing.
Professor Adeni, thank you very much. You made a comment in law. You would say that's an obiter that Atiku might emerge the candidate of the PDP, and some persons would ask, "What of here's some wicked?"
Or Aminu Tambuwa, for instance.
Of course, there are many. Yes. So, there are many aspirants who have picked their forms, so they will sort themselves out by next weekend, I believe. Not this weekend, but that's the weekend after the end of the month. Thank you very much. But we're wrapping up now. Again, just to further elaborate on this issue, so that we can, our viewers can have the benefit of your knowledge and insight. Sometimes we cite the U.S. example, and why not zoning in particular? But the purpose is similar. And my question is going to Ezenwa Nwangu. Look, it is often argued that democracy is a game of numbers, isn't it? That the minority can have their say, but the majority will have their way. But the US system recognizes that there could be oppression of the minority by the majority, which is why the choice of the president is by electoral college. And that electoral college weights the votes that the states will get. So that small states you will find in the northeast of the US, like states like Maine, could have also a say in the choice of the president, as against states, for instance, like California and Texas and Florida, that have a large number of electoral college votes. As I said, this is not zoning per se, but the ends would appear to be the same. How do you factor that into the zoning conversation that I know you always want to get away from, but I want to drag you back into it?
Well, the electoral college, zoning, American electoral processes have a lot of citizen involvement from bottom to the top. The first consideration are not as atavistic as it is here. That's basic. And so if you win majority of the votes widely in a way that the electoral college cannot affect that victory, then there is nothing that can happen. It is when you don't have that kind of victory that is overwhelming that the electoral college kicks in, and then it can disadvantage you even when you have won. But Nigeria, anytime I'm having conversation about Nigeria, I do my best to keep it as practical as possible. And the reason is because of not just criticism, observation over a period of time. There is an assumption that there is a competitive electoral process within the political parties. The reality is that it is transactional. This is the period of bazaar for members of the political party who are either statutory delegates or ad hoc delegates. There are constituencies that I know that has 301 delegates, for instance. For you to become a member of the House of Representatives in the last 2019 election, they paid as much as ₦1 million per delegate. And this is not hearsay. For governorship, delegates pocketed as much as 1.2, 1.3, 1.5, 1.6 million. At the end of the day, there is nothing that is healthy about a process that is so transactional in the way that we have seen it. We need to de-emphasize who owns these political parties. The ownership of the political party will continue to determine the direction that its affairs goes. Who is going to do the screening? What is the screening about? Is the screening about your qualifications? Is it about your visions? Or is it about who has the deepest pocket? And so when we make these comparisons about America, we need to situate it with the nature and fluidity of the kind of political party arrangement that we have here, that produces the kind of leadership recruitment that has put us in the kind of challenge that we have. Whether it is normative or realistic, what is important is that Nigeria needs to devise a means to get leadership to work for the generality of the Nigerian people. And what is currently on ground does not give hope, whether for the dominant political parties or even for the emerging ones.
Okay, thank you. We have been signaled to actually round off this conversation. Gentlemen, we would like to appreciate you, for being here this morning. We've had a healthy conversation, and we are looking forward to the primaries, which will happen in less than a month now. About in a couple of weeks now, we'll be saying bye-bye to the primaries. So at this point, Professor Abiodun Adeni of the Mass Communication Department, Bayes University, we thank you for coming.
Thank you.
All right. And Ezewan Wagu, Chairman, Partners for Electoral Reform and co-convener, Say No Nigerian campaign. We want to appreciate you for your comments this morning.
Thank you.
All right. And of course, Professor, or rather Dr. Mukhtar Imam, I know you soon become a professor.
I thought you were trying to compromise me so that my Oga here will not hinder me.
my fellow political scientist.
Thank you for having me.
And we're glad to have you this morning.
Thank you, my pleasure.
As our guest. And from our Benin studio, we had Dr. Asaya Osifo, two-time chairman of on Homode, I hope I got it right, local government area in Edo State. We also thank you for sharing your thoughts and your opinions on this very issue. All right, now before we finally call it a day, let's take some sports news.
The Nigerian Football Federation on Sunday announced the appointment of Joe Santos Pizarro as the new head coach of the senior men national team, Super Eagles. The appointment is with immediate effect, subject to the signing of agreed terms between the NFF and Mr. Pizarro. Jose Victor dos Santos Pizarro, 62, is a Portuguese who played as a striker in his days and has wide and varied experience coaching top clubs and national teams across 4 different continents, namely Europe, Asia, Africa, South America. Pizarro is expected to lead out the Super Eagles for the first time during the upcoming tour of the United States of America, during which the 3-time African champions will slug it out with Mexico and Ecuador's A teams in prestige friendlies on Saturday 28th May and Thursday 2nd June respectively. And in tennis.
Well, that's Good Morning Nigeria for today. We are back tomorrow, Tuesday, same time, 7 in the morning. Look after yourselves. I'm Kingsley Osadolo.
And I'm Kyrian Umayo. Do have a great day.